The great thing about that is for teachers is that as a teacher, you have utter security over your files, but as a pupil, their work can always be seen by teachers. So anything that a student puts into J2E goes into their own version of my files, which they see and when they log in. But as a teacher, you get to see their work by going into pupil files. More on that later when we work through and go from teaching and learning onto assessment. So here we go. I'm calling this session 101 almost, because I don't think I'm going to take I don't think I'm going to get through 101 different things in this session, but hopefully it'll give you an idea of some things that you can use. So let's start by animating a word. What I'm going to do here is I'm going to open an animation using this JIT tool here. So I'm going to open this and I'm going to go into the tile called Animate. Now, what I may want to do is use one of these templates which pop up immediately to start doing some animation work. So here I've got a picture of an iceberg. I'm going to animate the word cold. Now, what you see along this screen here is a number of different frames to my animation. And I'm going to get a word on the page and I'm going to animate it. So I'm actually going to make an animation from scratch, and here's how I do it. Now I'm going to choose a cold color. Perhaps blue is a good one to use, and I can change the size of my pen so I can make it a little bit smaller. Now what I can do is start by using my finger and writing the first letter, the K from cold. I can then add another these frames by clicking on the red plus button, and then I can write my next letter. Again, I want to copy this. I don't want to make a new one, but I want to copy that so that the next frame contains everything I did from the last one. Let's put a in there. I'm going to copy it and write my last letter. I mean, you could do it in such a way that it took a long time in different frames to write each letter as it goes. But there's my word, cold. There we go. Now, at the moment, I won't. It's written the word, but I might want to make it shiver. So here's what I do. I can add another frame, perhaps not just using the existing frame that I've got here, but if I want to, I can add a brand new frame or just use a spare one here where I can write over the old message. So the last screen, I'm now just simply writing slightly in a different place. And what's going to happen is I'm going to do that again. And I can see where it was last time. Going to go round again. And it's called an onion skin in the background. And then, oh, that last letter didn't work out too well, but let's leave that there. Let's get rid of these extra frames that I don't need. And I'm going to play my animation. Maybe I want to speed it up a little bit to give it a bit of a bigger shiver. And there we go. So here I've got an activity where I'm writing my letters, I'm forming the actual words, but I'm actually using the words in context. So that's one idea for you. That was quite an easy one to do. The next one would be to do something like a sports animation. Now you might want to be thinking about in physical exercise about how you would be working out all the different parts of the body and the limbs and the joints, etc. So we could use the animation tool to actually draw somebody running, for example. So let's put a template in instead here. I've just clicked on the little new icon. Now what I want to do is draw a stick man. What would probably help if I did this in the background is get up a picture of a running animation that I might want to copy. So here is a Google search that I've got of a person that's running. So I might want to try to emulate that. So here I could put, maybe I want to have a bigger, I'm going to make a right hash of this in the time I've got. And here you'll see me copying that. So there's my stick figure with arms running forwards and backwards. That's that one. Obviously, you might want to take a little bit more care about using the but this is the general idea. What do we want to do is have that one moving forward like that, and then the other leg going back behind. So I've got my first character on the screen, but I then want to onion skin that so that I've got the next character. And again, yeah, you can see I can copy this. I might want to put the character on the screen, jumping down and going through the next motion of having the arms, whoops, having the arms and legs a little bit more in line together. Clearly not the best animator in the world, but you get the idea.
Alistair, correct me if I'm wrong. You can save that and import it in J2E 5, can't you? So that then they can have an emotion and an animation and they can write about it as well.
That's the next bit that I was coming to.
Great.
Exactly. Thank you so much, Tanya. Now, there's two ways that you can do that. You can save it, and any file that you save will sit in the student's My Files area. So if I save this, for example, I can then I could do one of two things. I could either save it as a GIF. So I've literally just got a picture, an animated picture that people use on social media, things like Twitter, etc. But if I go back to the dashboard where I first sign in and look at my Files now, you can see that there is my GIF happening, or the actual animation that I've made in JIT5. So here, I might want to use this one to say use in J2E5. Oh, it's got a link to that one. Maybe I won't do it that way. I will do it the other way, and I'll do it again by going into My Files, open My Files. There's the animation, and that's the file that I want to share. So I'll open that and use it in J2E. So here is my animation, and then I can start to write about my running motion animation. And you can write about the work that you were doing in the animation tool right there. And then obviously you'd want to save that work and always give it a title so that it can be reviewed later on. So my running motion, for example. And again, that will save back into My Files for me to go and see later on. So there's your J2E5 document too. Okay. The next thing that I wanted to share with you was making some effects. Now this is quite fun. Another way to do perhaps some storytelling with animation here of setting emotion behind a story, and that can be easily done by going into JIT, and we'll go and use the animation tool again. here. And what you can do is you can, I mean, it's possibly an idea to start with a black background. So what we'll do is we'll do a fill on the screen completely in black. So we start with a black screen. So that's the important bit to do first. And there I may want to, I would put my tool back in there, maybe just change the pen type a little bit better. And then I might want to draw some lightning. I might want to fill it as well. Oops. Fill my lightning here. And the concept is that I want to switch the colors for the next screen for the next frame, sorry, so that now I'm going to use a different color just so that I can determine the background. So I'm going to switch from white to black and vice versa. Whoops, I've done that slightly wrong. But the idea is that you get your lightning strike and then you can switch between the colors so that you have a black background and a white background, alternating with a black lightning strike and a white lightning strike. And again, similar sort of process that you do there to save that and use that in a J2E5 document. Not forgetting to save your file as you go. Okay, the next thing I wanted to share with you was an idea of using the tablets whilst you're doing a science experiment. The experiment that you might be doing could be counting things which would need to be put into a bar chart, but also that bar chart warrants an explanation of what it is that you were counting, perhaps a conclusion, or whilst you're describing how you collected the data itself. So again, I'm going to go into Launch and I'm going to go into JIT. It's one way to do it. And that would be to create a chart. There are options as to which kind of charts that you might want to do, but let's just do colors just quickly, for example. And if I enter the data, make some numbers up as I go, this could be favorite colors, for example. Oops, and I'm just adding all of this data in here, and then it puts it onto a bar chart. Now what I can do is I can convert this just to a bar chart without the data on the table. I could include the data there as well, but if I just want to tick it away and I'm left with all of those different parts of my bar chart, I need to save my information.
Alistair, can you just show them the file name where there is chart that they need to change it, because when it goes in pupils files, then they will all be named chart.
That's true. That's
and it was the same for Animate as well.
Yes, that's true. Anything that you save, you can just save as it stands without giving it a name. It's not good practice, and I've been doing that just so that we can move quickly through the different parts of this. You can see that there is a field here which is called chart. Now I saved that and I put that into my files, and you can see it's called chart and animate and running motion. Those are the names of the files that I've got. But what you want to do is encourage your children to actually save them with names. So I can call this favorite colors, and I type that in there and then save it. And what you'll see then in my files is that chart has been renamed favorite colors. So there's two ways that you can do what I was saying here, which is create a bar chart and an explanation. The first way is to make a bar chart here, and then using, and all students with their own devices, if they're on their own or with working in groups, etc., or if you've done this for them, all of your children will be able to do this on their tablets by clicking on the little I button and then clicking in using J2E, which will then put your chart on the page. You can move it anywhere you wish and then start writing about your experiment. And then add more information that you need. And again, the children would need to save that file and our favorite color experiment. Excuse the spelling there and the typos. Okay, the other way of doing this is still sticking to the JIT tool, and we're going to move off of JIT in a minute. But one of the tools that is here, if we look past all these tabs, at the end at the far right hand side, you have a mix tile. Now what it allows me to do is choose a number of different ways of representing information on the screen at one time. And you can have more than one page. What you'll see here is that the tabs across the top are color coded. Purple, blue, struggling with the colors today, green, orange, etc. They relate to the ones here. So having made a chart, I may want to put a chart here and the work to be written about underneath. So here I just press tick. And instead of just making one there on the fly, I could load one that I've made previously and have that there whilst I then write about my experiment. So here on a display, you can have both things happening at the same time. Your data, putting it on a chart, and writing about it underneath. But there's more to this than that too, because what you can also do with this is have a storyboard of how the experiment unfolded, because you can add more pages. We're still in mix, but adding more pages by clicking on this little plus button here allows me to choose another page to go in my presentation. And it could be a painting using the turtle coding program, another chart, a pictogram, an animation, or a branching database, or some extra text. But if we put a painting in here, what will happen is the next page will slide along and I can paint to my heart's desire in this box here and use all of the stamps or any further pictures that I want to add in here too. And then it creates a slideshow. So automatically it's a slideshow. And the great thing about this is that every single one of those pages can be narrated. You, as the person that created this, so if you're a pupil can record themselves describing what happened. So if they don't want to type, they can hit the microphone button and then press record, and they will be then recording their voices as they describe what happened in the experiment. And they can redo it if they want to. You know, if you make a mistake, you can just press delete and go and do another recording again. So that is creating a bar chart and an explanation. The next one I wanted to show you is another different tool, which follows on a little bit from last week, which is drawing letters using coding. So last week we looked at Code Week, and now what we'll do is we'll have a quick look at the way that we can form letters by using code. We're going to pop into code here, J2 code, just for a second, and we'll do it here in Logo. You could use the JIT turtle program, or you could use the Logo tool. And a very, very simple instruction here would be to either use the levels, and you can instruct your children to work at different levels to be able to see whether they could create the algorithm that makes the arrow and the logo command actually produce a letter. Level 1, basic instructions with up, down, and direction changes. Level 2 and level 3 adds a greater level of complexity, but for time's sake we'll just show you the example here. So here, for example, if I wanted to create a letter T, I could either do it like this and have a very simple way of doing it in just outline form, or I could, let's just do another one, have the instructions to do it in the form that has extra height. So here, for example, I'm going to go and do it in a slightly different way and have the letter formed like so. And there we go. We'll just finish that off. Okay, so now we can look at the instructions to write different letters, and you could include the tasks for your students to write all sorts of things. You could write smaller, and you could write a whole sentence, or you could write their name and look at the code instructions in order to complete the task in hand. Just an option for you, looking at how to create characters, create letters using code. And again, you can save that and also display the final result in J2E 5 as well for students to write about. Now, the next thing I wanted to give you an opportunity to think about was the 3 R's. We are looking at, yes, repositioning, rotating, and resizing. These are the tools that you will be able to use within the tool called J2E 5. And we are using J2E 5 to make this presentation. What do I mean by reposition, rotating, and resizing? Well, simply put, the reposition first means that you can put something on the screen. If you create a new J2E 5 document by clicking or tapping on J2E 5, it says quite simply, click anywhere, and then you can do that. Simply just typing. To reposition the text, I need to tap, on anything that I've put on the screen, and I can reposition it by simply dragging it and putting it wherever I want it on the page. The resizing of that activity, of that particular thing, is done by controlling the corners of your box you see here. So when I go and select something, anything on the page, whether it's text or whether it is a picture, let's just have a picture here. If I drag a picture into the page, the resizing is done because I've double clicked on it by dragging the corners, and then I can perhaps reposition it because I've made it a bit too big and I want it somewhere else by simply putting it somewhere else on the page. So here is a really simple way of adding images by using the image button and then searching for images. You could either search for images that you've got in My Files already, or by clicking on the World button, which will then allow you to do a safe web search, and it'll find you hundreds of pictures that you can use that are all safe and appropriate for use on your tablet. So it will allow you to immediately use safe, appropriate, and license-free in that you are making. So again, with text, I can reposition it or drag the corners to resize it. You'll also see at the top right-hand corner of the page that you've got the font and the size. But if I change the size of the font manually, it'll, I need to just change the size of the box and then put it there. So I can either change the size of the font by dragging it or by changing the size and the value of font size. Now the next thing is on the 3 R's, so it's reposition, resize, and rotate. Now every time I click on an image that happens on the screen, I can either resize it using the corner dots, or I can click further in the middle here, and it says there's a drag to rotate button here. So I can change the angle at which anything I put on the screen that appears. Now, what you'll see here is, this is rather a useful thing to do, is if I hold my finger down whilst I'm dragging to rotate, it goes in a number of degrees, 30, 60, 90, so it's very easy to put it to a specific point. But if I move my finger away and I make it further away, I can actually go specifically to, so I'm dragging it a bit further away, I can actually change the angle that I want to the precise angle that I want it to be at. Okay, a quick shout out whilst I'm doing this. All of these things that I'm giving you here, ideas of using J2E in a number of different ways using your tablets, are all from teachers. Now, these ideas have been shared with me over a period of time by teachers that are very happy to share their ideas as to the things that they can do with J2E with us. So it's a big shout out to people like Mr. Williams down on the south coast of England, who's come up with some of these suggestions. Okay, so that's reposition, resize, and rotate. Moving on to the greater complexities here is looking at calligrams, using a word and graphically presenting that word with its meaning. And I've got a few examples on the screen here. For example, I've got the word big. Now, if I want to make that big, I need to double click on it, drag it, and make it big. Similarly, there's a word here which is small, and I want that to stay small. Now I can use the skills that I've learned in rotating things to move things upside down. So here, I might want to make it a little bit bigger, but if I click and hold the rotate button, it then allows me to put the words upside down. Or, for example, if I want to change the color of a word, whilst I've got it highlighted and selected, I can use the toolbar on the right-hand side here to change the color. I've also got these words uphill and downhill. What I might want to do is rotate them so that they make sense. One is going uphill and one is going downhill. I might want to highlight that a little bit further by using the pen tool and drawing underneath it to say, oops, run out of space there for my finger. Oops, let's just do that again by clicking undo. Grab the pen tool, start drawing, and downhill. There we go. So that's a really simple concept, and allow children to get through the concept to be able to create their own for themselves, and again to be able to save them so that you can see them. Animated calligrams is the next step that I wanted to share with you. The possibility of making animations within about words within J2E5. Not leaving J2E5, I'm going to stay within J2E5. For example, if I select the word spin, let's just make this a little bit bigger here for a second. And oh, let's just move my screen share Teams thing out of the way. Down the bottom right-hand corner of the screen, I've got an animate button. And if I click on that, once I've highlighted and selected my object, I can actually choose to animate it. So here, I've got one, there's a few that I can choose. There's the spin. And straight away, you'll see that that is spinning. You can always change the direction that it spins in as well. So I'm going to make it spin clockwise. And also, don't forget that this is also able to be used as a presentation. So you can have a trigger moment, what actually the action is that makes this happen. So for example, start on click, or when the mouse brushes over it, or after a particular period of time. So if I start on mouse over, if I go into view mode for a second, as soon as the mouse moves onto it, it starts spinning. Do that again. Move my mouse close and it starts to spin. Another animation could be to flash, for example. Go to Animate, and there's the flash one. And then we've got a duration, so it's just going to flash on and off until I press it to stop. So many different options, but it doesn't just have to be text that you do that with. For example, if I put a car on the screen, let's grab a car, pop it on the screen here, and make it a little bit bigger. Here, obviously, I don't want to animate the whole thing, because if I make the I guess I could, if I wanted to, I could make the car grow, or I could write the word grow and I could make the word grow as an example. But what I might like to do is actually get some wheels on this car and make the wheels move. So let me just grab some wheels quickly. Here we go. We've got one wheel. Let's do it again. We've got two wheels there. What I want to do is get them the right size and pop them on the car. In fact, what I can do here is show you a little trick. Here is one of the wheels, which I've just resized to fit on the car. I selected it, but at the top here, you've got this little plus button and it says drag to copy. So here, I can just drag a copy of that and drop it at the back end of the car. Now, what I want to do is animate the wheels so that they spin. Remember to go and get that spinning. Oh, we're going backwards at the moment. Let's make the car go forwards. There we go. Clicking clockwise will make the wheel go forwards. And then we should do the same thing with the back wheel. And we'll make that spin. And we'll make it spin clockwise. So there we go. We've got a car rolling down the road. Now, what I might want to do is the image didn't quite have everything that I wanted in it. It doesn't really make sense having this extra plug socket on the back. Let's get rid of that really easily. What I can do is click on my image. Now I've shown you how to resize using these corner dots, but by dragging your finger with these middle dots allows you to instantly crop the image. So let's get rid of that. And the same thing can be done top and bottom as well. So there is how to animate Calligrams. Next idea. Tessellates, triangles and quadrilaterals. Fabulous activity. Really simple to do using J2E5. On the right hand side here are these icons. Now this one here is add shape. How I add shapes onto this is I just click and I'm going to just choose the size of the shape that I want. So I'm just going to have the outline, color and shape. So I'm going to just draw now by selecting that. And as soon as I press click, I can start putting, let's just put that there. And then if I double tap, it will join it up for me. Now I can maybe make that smaller or bigger, or even just change the size of it to what I want it to be, and then move it around the screen. Now, if you recall, this button at the top here creates a copy of that. So let's just drag another copy of that. And now I can rotate it and maybe have that object, whoops, tessellate. And I can do that again, because what I can do here now is select both items together. I'm simply just highlighting both at the same time, and then I can just drag it and move it to show that the shape will tessellate. And keep going. And if you want to, you could highlight one of them and perhaps choose a color for it to be filled with, so that you've made it clear that the shapes are different. The same can be done with quadrilaterals. Let's just select these all, and I can change the size, move them around on the page. So the same can be done with quadrilaterals. Oops. Here, I've got my quadrilateral. I can then move it around the screen. Oh, if you actually drew one that would, yes, you get the concept. That wasn't particularly a good example, but you get the idea. Okay, now this idea is called estimating, measuring, and checking angles. The possibilities here are simply to get children to practice measuring and estimating, and then measuring angles. Let's do it like this. So what I want to do first is I want to put 2 lines on the screen. So I'm going to use I'm going to make a rectangle, but I'm going to make it really thin so that you can only see the actual actual line itself. So let's just do that again, and let's just draw that line like that. Now I want to copy that and put another line there. But what I want to do is I want to have this going at a particular angle like this, and maybe join it to the end of the line, like, whoops, like so. So here I could very simply create a series of these for my pupils to be able to estimate what that angle is. So let's get them doing this. So on the page we'll have an estimate, and my estimate is that that angle is greater than 90 degrees, and it looks like it's possibly 115 and 120. So let's have a look and see what happens. Now that's my estimate, but let's measure that by introducing the maths tools here at the top of the screen, the measuring tools, which include a protractor. So here I can drag my protractor down, we'll pop it onto the line, rotate it, and then maybe I need to zoom in a little bit. Okay, so that looks like it's actually 120. Yeah, I've not done too bad. That was quite a good estimation there, actually. Let's just put that in there. Maybe it was not quite, it was 119. I think that was more likely. And let's just check the angle. How do we do that? Well, let's just move the protractor out of the way for a second. What I want to do is actually click on that line. Down there. And whoops. At the bottom of the page, at the bottom right-hand side, you have this button here. Details. What it's going to do is show me the details. And it's actually saying that the angle that I created just freehand is 119 degrees. It says it right there. So the check wasn't too bad, wasn't too far off. And that's simply by clicking on that line, clicking on that button allows me to check the angles, all within a presentation tool called J2E5. Okay, let's have a look at another idea. Pentominoes. Quick shout out to everybody that's here. Has anybody used Pentominoes? Tanya, anybody? You put on the chat here if you've been using Pentominoes, or if you've ever played with Pentominoes.
We're getting no says yet, so we're okay, being very innovative today.
Pentominoes are a group of 5 cubes joined together. And the rule has to be that the sides have to be joined up. At least one side has to be joined up. So let me make some pentominoes as an example for you. And the rule is that there are only 12 types of pentominoes. How do we make these in the first place? Well, at the bottom of the page here, we have this button called grid. So I click on that and it puts a grid on the page. Hopefully that comes through as the screen share. You can see that there is now a grid on the page. And what I can do is press the snap button, which means that if I put anything on this page, it will only snap to the grid. It won't allow me to do anything else. So here I want to, let's just use a smaller one. Let me not do that. Let's do that again. Let me put a pentomino, a single cube. There we go, on the page. So that's one square. I'm going to copy that, and again, and again, and again. So there is one pentomino on the page. I can select it. I've made one already, and I'm just going to move it to the side, maybe change its color. Whoops. I'm going to duplicate it using that duplicate tool, and I'm going to give it. Now, what I may want to do is then change this pentomino. And there you go, I've got a different pentomino. So that's another example. Whoops. Oh, I don't want that one. Just get rid of that one. Let's just move you down a little bit. Get it out of the way. And let's give that one a color too. Let's color that one differently. And then, yeah, let's just make another one. So you can go on like this, making all sorts of pentominoes, and you should be able to make different versions of this. And this is just using the J2E tool. Now, what you can do is, I believe that there are, and you have to research this because I'm not too hot on this, I believe that there are different boxes that once you've got your 12 different shapes that you can make, you should be able to make them all fit into a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 by 12 box. I think there's another couple of variations as to the size, the height and the length that these boxes can actually take as well, where you will be able to select each one of your pentominoes and and pop them into the box and try and make them all fit together. And then of course you can select your pentomino and rotate it so that it'll fit into the box properly. Really simple idea, using the snap and the grid tools here to practice, play the idea of making your own pentominoes. Aha. Let's move into drawing shapes. So now we have the shape tool here on the screen. Now the great thing is that there are pre-made shapes that appear on the right hand side of the page. And what you can do is simply drag 1 or 2 or 3 onto the page. And then you can make them bigger by resizing them and repositioning the page. Take one at a time, and we can also change its shape. So we can actually use this little slider to change the shape that it's at as well. Oops. And again, make it smaller and make it bigger. And there's a really good one here, which is quite simple, but very useful. Let's make it bigger. What we can also do is use the pink dot to make the arrow change. And then, of course, we can rotate it to do what we want with it as well. And The lovely thing here is that we can fill it, give it a color, so that we draw attention to it on the page as well. So that's how you can draw shapes. One of the things that you may not have explored quite yet, and I've talked about this on other webinars for Malta as well, actually, is word lists. The idea behind using J2E, other than all of the different ideas that I'm sharing with you today, are that you can use it to create a story, to write a poem, to write up an experiment. But sometimes you might need to have your children using specific word lists to encourage them to use those in sentences. And the W at the top of the page allows you to search the existing word lists that you have available. So if you click on the W, which stands for word lists, you will then be able to look down and see the word lists that you have available to you. You'll see all of these ones that appear for Halloween, and it'll pop those words at the bottom of the screen. You see them there, and then it will allow you to, oh, that's interesting. I'm not quite sure why it's doing that for me at the moment. Let's just do that again. And I'll have a look at other options for you as well, because what I wanted to share with you were some sentence starters. Sentence starters allow you to put those words onto the page, but not just as words, but as whole sentences. So this gives you a great opportunity to create sentence starters for your students that actually put not just one word, but a few words on the page. That you can then informing fuller sentences. I'm not quite sure why that one decided to misbehave like that. Now, what you can do as teachers is, or as students even, is you can create your own word lists too within J2E. And simply you click on the W sign, click on the red plus, and the simple process of doing it is giving the name to your particular word list. Things around me: laptop, desk, chair, carpet, and door. And they are then able to be added at the bottom of the page for you to use straight away. Now, when you're doing this, what you're actually also doing is creating word lists that can be used in the Just Do Easy infant tools. So now I've created my word list, I can go into JIT and into JIT Write. And what you'll see here is typically top words that appear. But if I press this button here, you've got your own set of words as well: carpet, chair, desk, door, and laptop. So as a teacher, you can create your own word lists and share them with your students, perhaps as an opportunity to practice those if they are particular words of the week, for example. Now, this is rather interesting.
Show them how to, please.
Go back. So when I press on W, I've just created this word list, which is things around me, which is there. So let's put them at the top again. So on the right hand side here. Now that list is at the top and I can see that it's not shared with anybody. Why can I see that? Well, because further down the list, I can see that there are these other ones, like this one here. Let's just go back and show you. Today's word list has a little share icon against it, and sentence starters has a share icon against it too. Having created my word list, there's a little I button there. And you guessed it, it shows you the option to share them, at which point I can then choose this little down arrow and choose who I want to share this spelling list with. So I could either choose a particular pupil, or an entire class at one go, or the entire school in one go too. And now I know that that's been shared with other students because it's showing me that it's now been shared. Okay, gosh, I've got a few to go through today. Is it okay to carry on? Because I've got a few more. Would you like see just a couple more?
We have great, so I think let's see what the others say. Can he go on a bit more? Is it okay for the others?
Yeah.
Up to now, Janet answered. She says it's okay, you can go. I'm going to see. Sure, so you can go on.
Okay, we'll just go on a few more minutes. I won't keep you going too much longer, but I've got a few other ideas here. I think I've got, yeah, I'll just do 5 more. Okay, right, measuring length. Let's put a line on the page using the line tool. Oops. Just when you don't want it to muck about, it decides to muck about.
Mention Halloween next time because you're doing spooky things.
Yeah.
There's appearing lines.
My goodness. Let's just do this again. I'm going to open JIT again because it's deciding to be very funny with me. Let's just measure some lines. So we'll put, there we go, a line on the page. Now, what I can do is I could put the measuring button down. I can, using the maths tools here, I could put a ruler on the page. And of course, I might want to put the ruler and change its angle. So I can then match it up and I can then measure the line. So and that's a 9 centimeter. Obviously, you would need to have introduced the concept of measuring things with your students first, using perhaps a ruler in the classroom. But this really gives you an opportunity to set some examples out for your students to be able to go and measure things for themselves. Now, of course, if I move the ruler away, by the way, having put this ruler down, you can extend it, make it longer or shorter, depending on how you want it to have. But you can also check the measurements as well, because let's have a look at this button here. It says show length. So I wasn't quite right. So my measure wasn't as accurate as it should. 0.88 centimeters. Very simple thing to do with the measuring tool. Now this is rather interesting. The next idea is being able to estimate things. Now the age-old question of how long is a piece of string possibly could be answered using J2E here. Let's just use the freehand tool here and we'll just draw. Oh, it's not going to do it here, is it? It doesn't want to do it here. Let's save this and we'll refresh the page and see what happens. Okay, so let's draw a line of string on the page. It doesn't want to do it, does it? having loads of fun with me today. Let's open another one. Let's draw a line on this page. Now, of course, what I could do is I could, to work out the lengths, I could get my ruler and line it up and extend it and put down here, maybe it's about a little bit longer than 20 centimeters if I straighten that piece of string out. So let's put 20 centimeters. Let's move that tape measure away for a second. And we'll click on the piece of string itself and we'll show the lengths. Oh, and that's actually a 20 centimeter length. That wasn't a bad estimate at all, was it? Let's do another one. Let's just undo these ones. Get rid of that. Now let's make it a little bit more complicated. So here we could do some approximating by putting the tape measure on the page, and we could say that there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 that are about 4 centimeters each. So 4 at 32, and then put the actual in. How do we put the actual in? Let's click on the actual piece of string and then just click on show length. Oh, 49, terribly far out. And you could do this with anything. Say, for example, if you wanted to, you could put a picture of a circle on. So we could just pop a circle on the page. And there, what we can do is just draw around the circle. So we can draw freehand round the circle, trying as hard as I can. And then we could go and show the length. 21.15 centimeters. There we go. And there we've managed to find the length. So answering the age-old question of how long is a piece of string, the answer is 49.01 centimeters. Okay, let's just move on quickly. Oh, I'm in the wrong presentation here. Tracing. Perhaps I want to do some tracing. I want to perhaps trace around a lightning bolt, for example. Let's here. I don't want to actually draw it here. I can. Oh, of course, it's not going to do it here not right now, is it? Let's do tracing by opening a new one. Won't take me long to do this. Here is my thunderbolt. I don't want the whole thing, so what I'm going to do is trace by pointing and clicking at each point of the object. Let's just do this super quick, and then double tap to complete the object. And there I have, so I can now move my image away. I have my object. Now what you'll notice is that I can change this object if I want to do that, or I could maybe color it differently, and then I can copy that and have multiple lightning on the screen. Now what I can also do is I could do some tracing around something a little bit different. So I could have, oh, let's just trace around an egg. It's always quite difficult to draw an egg shape, so let's just put a picture of an egg on the screen. Oh, there's an egg, and here I am going to draw around my egg. Doing it in a very hurried manner, just so that you get the idea. And there I have my egg shape, which I can always change because it's then got the pull points on it as well. And of course I could then give it a fill, and there I've got my egg. So that's tracing. The next thing I love is gradient colors. Well, let's just use this for example. Now here I have my outline of my egg. Let's just use this as my example. Whoops. And what I want to do is I could have a gradient. So what you'll see here is I have a line here which I can move around. And the more I pull that line, the greater the gradient is of color. So I'm doing the outline of this object at the moment by simply pulling the color. But if I want to, I could have it two colors. So let's have the color. Let's just do this a little bit more obvious. So bright green, and the outline color is red. So here we go. Let's just change that again. So now I'm able to change the gradient of fading from one color into the other. And we could also do that with the fill. So we could have it filled in yellow and have a gradient color of green and pull that to make it a stronger gradient in different directions. Really powerful tools just within the presentation package of J2E. So that's the gradient. Could also have it in rainbow colors as well. Now, the next, possibly the last one I want to show you because I'm running out of time now. I do apologize. Let's just move this here. The last tool that I wanted to show you out of the maths tools is drawing circles. Here, I've got the maths tool. So I click on the maths tool and I can click on the protractor and I can now start to draw circles. Just like you would operate a protractor, you can make the protractor bigger or smaller by using the buttons on the side of the page, but I can open the protractor here to the distance that I want, and you'll see that it changes the diameter, sorry, radius, and then pulling the line with the pen allows me to draw the circle that's been drawn, which I can then move anywhere I want to and put on the page. So simply put, using the protractor, put the protractor where you want, open the protractor, and to draw the circle. And then we can put the protractor somewhere else and draw another. All sorts of reasons why you might want to use that, including the sheer possibility of making Venn diagrams or any ideas that you've got as well. Okay, right, it's getting up to well over the hour now. I still have a few ideas for you, but I think I should stop because the opportunity to go through 101 ideas for using J2E would probably take an awful lot longer. I hope that's given you some idea of the depth of using Just2Easy as a creative tool with all of these fantastic features that are right here within this tool that can be used on your tablet for all sorts of purposes, whether it's writing up, presenting, narrating, making a story. The possibilities are absolutely limitless as to the creativity that you and your students can have. There is one last one though that I really would like to share with you, which is something that even I learnt the other day, and that is this. A lot of teachers are using Just2Easy, the J2E5 tool, as a way of simply during lockdown times of making a schedule that the children will be doing for that week. But if they do that every week, it means that you're going to have to make a new template every week. And that's a bit of a struggle because you don't want to spend all your time making a brand new activity schedule for all of your students. So here is how to do it very quickly. what I'm talking about is making, let's just create something that looks a little bit more fun. Making an activity schedule for the week. So I'm going to start typing and saying activity schedule for this week in October. And let's put a box on the page first, which is going to be for, let's just put that on the page and we'll lock that to the page and we'll have this as the English activity. Now in English this week, in English, we will be reading the story of the munching caterpillar. And what we might also be doing is let's just put another box on the page. And in this box, we might be doing some maths. So in maths, and in maths, we'll be doing a worksheet. To make this a little bit more interesting, that maths be these pictures, but I'm just going to use these pictures as an example because this picture is going to be something that the students can click on to get to that activity. Let's just save this and call it activity worksheet. Okay, so what I want to do is create it so that when a student comes and sees this, they can click on that lightning strike and it will take them to the activity that I want them to do. That could be quite a complicated process, but I'm going to show you how simple it is. Because in my files, you will have already uploaded something for your students to do, whether it is a Word document or a PDF or a video to watch, for example. They're all in my files, ready to be used. But back here, I've got my icon. I'm going to click it. And what I want to do is make an easy way for me to select the resource that I want my students to go to when they click on it. So what I do is I highlight the picture and then I click on link. And on the page here, I ignore all of these things that it says here. It could be linking to a website. So you could put a link to bbc.co.uk/weather, for example. And that one would link to a resource in. But I don't want to do that in this time. What I want to do is browse. So let me just go through this process again. Click to highlight the picture. Click the link button at the bottom of the page and then click browse. That then shows me all of my resources and I simply select the one I want and click link. Click OK and that's done, which means that in view mode, when your student comes here, it will be a clickable link and it will take them to the activity. Okay, this is quite possibly the longest webinar I've ever done, and I apologize about that. Hopefully, this has given you some ideas as how you could be using JIT, J2E5, and more with your students using the tablets. All of these fabulous tools at your fingertips, ready to go with just their login. And the beauty of it is that wherever they press the save button, you will always be able to see everything that they create by clicking on the pupil files button there, and you will see the classes and you will see your students' work too. And there we have it. Okay, that's going to wrap this session up from me today. Sorry I went a little bit over time, but thank you for bearing with me. Does anybody have any questions? Are you there?
There was one by Janet earlier on after she corrects the student's work. Okay, just imagine, and she's given it a mark, so it's an assessment task. Can she it in a way that the student can no longer edit it? Or maybe copy it to her files so that she has the final version.
Okay, so what you want to do is actually go and lock the student's work so that they can't go and edit it and change it for themselves once they've given it a grade.
After you have corrected it, after the teacher has corrected it.
Right, okay. I don't know the answer to that.
Maybe you'll know it by next week.
What I'll do is I'll come back to you, Tanya.
Janet, not me.
Yeah, I'll come back to you, Tanya, and if you were able to share that information with Janet, that would be great. Is that okay?
Yes, but I think she can make a copy in her own files because she needs so that if the student edits it, at least she will have the version she has corrected.
Assessed, yes. Yes. Although if a student decides that they want to delete something, it's still recoverable from the bin as well. So if, for example, we just deleted that, then it will always sit in the bin, which is recoverable to be found again. So you just press restore and it will go back into Eli's folder. Okay. Right. Does anybody else have any other questions?
No, everyone is very quiet.